Now in this part, we're going to be continuing with more varieties of questions that you might get when we're dealing with the future value. So here we're going to be basically talking about calculating monthly savings. All right, so let's go ahead and read the instructions that we are given here. Now, Sihle wants to save up 100,000 rands to pay a deposit on a house in 4 years' time. Now, she makes equal quarterly payments into a savings account starting immediately, right? Now, she makes the last payment at the end of 4 years. Now, how much will she save, right, each quarter if interest is calculated at 12% per annum compounded quarterly? All right. Now, here, to understand what is happening, we have to basically see it in timeline, because that's also another thing that helps us to understand, especially when we have things like immediately, right? When we have things like immediately. All right. So now here, let's say now this is Sihle decides to actually save up, right? So Sihle decides to save up so that she can basically have this 100,000 at the end of 4 years' time. So now here, when she does that, right, on that day, she puts in that X amount of money, right? But then now, she then continues doing it each quarter, right, up until the end of the first year. So it means in each quarter then, here, let me just try and make this into quarter. She puts in another X amount of money, right, in each quarter. And then she does the same thing in the second year, right? She puts in what? She continues putting in the X amount of money, like that. And then same with the third year. She puts in X amount of monies, right? And so as for the last year, right? Puts in the X amount of money. Now notice something here. Notice that if Sihle started doing this a quarter after she decided, right, then that would have meant that we were going to calculate actually on her first quarter, right? And then calculating from her first quarter, we'll notice that this is going to be 4. This was going to be 4, 8, 12, 16, right? That was going to be a quarter after the day she decided, right? But then now that's not what happened here. What happened was that Sihle woke up in that morning and was like, you know what? I'm going to be starting today, right? So it means because of she said she's going to be starting today to put in the money, we have to then include that, right? Now we see that if that didn't happen, there's going to be 16 times. But then now, because of it happened immediately, we then going to add that first immediate payment that she made. Now, to calculate now the number of savings, right? To calculate the monthly savings, what we need to think of, right? We need to first think of the amount that she's trying to reach, which is in this case, so she's trying to have 100,000 rands, right? And then we need to consider the compound periods, which is here it is quarterly, so it is going to be 4. And then we're going to need to also consider the interest. It is 12% over 4. And then now when we go into n is going to be the number of times that she made those deposits, right? So now instead of calling this, or instead of saying this is going to be 4 times something, right? Because here, if you remember the years, it is 4, right? Now instead of saying this now, and it is 4 times 4, we'll then say 4 times 4, but then we'll add this with 1, because there's that one payment that Sihle made immediately, right? Now this, you can write it this way, or you can simply write it as 17, because like I said in the previous video, this value of n, it is not only, you don't always get to achieve it by basically multiplying the number of years with the compound. You always need to make sure, always need to think in your mind, how many payments did Sihle make? or how many deposits were actually made there, right? So that is basically what we're focusing on, and that's what n is all about, right? Okay, so now we see here that we want to find x. So now let's go ahead and do that. So to find x, the first thing that you always need to do is to, of course, have the formula. So I'm just going to quickly write the formula like that. And then after having the formula, we must isolate x, right? So to isolate x, it means we're going to make it a subject of the formula. So I'll do that by cross multiplying the first. So this gives me I times the future value is equals to x into 1 plus I into n minus 1. Then from here, I will divide by 1 plus I into n minus to the power of n, minus 1, all into, let me just write it as it is, 1 plus I all to the power of n minus 1, right? Now this cancels with that, and therefore here x becomes I times the future value over 1 plus I to the power of n minus 1. Now, when it comes to future value and present value, this is very important to do, because now this, because of you're going to be working with bigger numbers, right, it will help you to avoid making mistakes. Remember, once you start substituting here and then you simplify, in financial maths, you have to write that answer including what? Including the decimal. So now when you're actually doing what I'm showing you right now, where you have to first make x the subject of the formula, this helps you to do what? To then only press this once, and then you're just going to be writing the final answer right there. You don't have to then worry about whether you've made a mistake. If you made a mistake, it will only be you when you are trying to basically solve that. It means those are going to be the mistakes that you can actually rectify later, so yeah. Okay, so now here we have substituted here. So now we're gonna go ahead and actually type this into our calculator. All right, so as you can see here, we typed it in the calculator. So press the equal sign, and then it means now here Satan needs to save up 4,595 cent. Sorry, then 5 rand 0.25 cent, and that is going to be how we get our mindless savings. And that is all for this video, and I want to see you into the next part. Cheers.